All right. Okay, so welcome to the February 2022 ILL Roundtable. I almost said 2020 because I'm looking at 2020 statistics. Let's hope it's not 2020. So, sorry, I'm going to hang on. I'm going to let more people in. So we did not have a large, agenda today. I am going to ask if you're not talking, please mute because we're getting a lot of feedback. There we go. Okay. So today I mostly wanted to talk about statistics. I have some of the preliminary 2021 interlibrary loan statistics from Clover, and we are not quite back at 2019 levels, but I think, blew the 2020 numbers out of the water. So it's a good start. And I was thinking we could, since we haven't done this in a while, just go around and maybe have people introduce themselves so that everyone knows who's here and who's at what library, and there are some new faces. So I'm just going to cruise down the list that is in alphabetical order and has mine at the top. So I'm just going to start off. I'm April Shaw. I'm the Librarian of Government Services at the Department of Libraries, and I am also head of interlibrary loan here, and like to pretend that I run Clover and the courier service. So I'm going to go down. Next up in the list is a new one. It's a phone number. Who called in at 802-264-5660? Can you unmute? Oh, Marie said April Shaw, Clover Queen. Okay, they are not unmuting. All right, so Adrian is next.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Katz, and I'm a librarian at the St. Johnsbury Athenaeum.
All right, and Betsy. Oh, you're still muted. Oh, okay, so I'll just say, is Betsy Kane at the Bradford Public Library? Okay, thumbs up. And Gretchen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gretchen Wright. I'm the director of Jericho Town Library.
And Kim. Kim, you're muted.
Hi, I'm Kim Hannon-Brobst, and I do interlibrary loan for Hartness Library, which serves the communities of Vermont Technical College and the Community College of Vermont.
All right, and Jean.
Hi, Jean Carr. I'm the director of Vermont Free Library.
Right.
And I don't have video on the computer. I had trouble connecting this morning with one of my devices, so this is the best I could do.
That works.
Thank you.
And Jen.
Hi, I'm got this stuck in my earring. Hi, I'm Jen Spanier. I'm the library director at Blake Memorial Library in East Corinth, Vermont.
All right. And Kathleen. You're muted.
I know. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I just can't keep up with the mutes, unmutes. I'm Kathleen Engstrom with the Arvin A. Brown Public Library in Richford, Vermont.
All right. And Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Johnston. I'm the assistant librarian at Mount Mansfield Union High School, and I am the ILL coordinator.
And Lee.
Hi, I don't have a picture on my computer, but I'm here.
Hi.
It's down the hill.
Ed Aldrich.
Yes, at the Aldrich.
Okay, and Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Milchman at the Assistant Director at the Norwich Library, and I don't have my video on because I'm currently multitasking.
I think we all do that sometimes. And Marie.
Hi, I'm Marie Schmuckel. I am the director of the Warren Public Library, and I will be eating my breakfast, so that's why I'm going to keep my camera off.
Okay, and Michelle.
Hi, Michelle Bolio. I am the new ILL librarian at the Burnham, and I was the one who called in and didn't know how to unmute.
Okay. Okay. And Noreen.
Hi, I'm Noreen from the Essex Free Library, and I'm the interlibrary loan person there, and I work with the children's department as well.
And Sandy.
Hi, I'm Sandy Carey at the West Hartford Library.
Right. And Tara.
Hi, I'm Tara Key. I'm at the Stowe Free Library. I'm an adult librarian and I do all the ILL.
All right. And Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy. I am the assistant librarian at Brownell Library. I'm the ILL librarian and wear a few other hats as well.
All right. And Trudy. Trudy? Okay. And Wendy.
I'm Wendy Sharkey from the Bennington Free Library. I'm head of circulation, cataloguer, interlibrary, well, lots of things.
All right. And Rutland team. Can you just let us know who's there?
Hi, sorry.
That's okay.
We have, did I lose my camera?
It's frozen, I think.
Okay, let's try it on. My computer's just giving me a hard time this morning. So we have Karen.
Karen. Oh, it cut out.
And okay, Karen, Caroline, Jude, and Yvonne.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so I thought we would gonna open chat so I can keep an eye on chat if people want to type anything in. But I was gonna open with talking about the Clover 2021 statistics. I'm gonna bring up, I'm on a much smaller screen than I'm used to. So when I'm looking at the 2019 statistics to compare, I can't actually see everyone. So this year's numbers are that there were 56,381 requests sent through Clover. To put that into, oh, sorry. I am gonna actually mute people. Okay. To put that into context, we had 56,381 requests made from January 1st to December 31st. In 2020, with the shutting down and the reopening and learning how to navigate COVID, there were 41,393 requests made. So we made a very big jump, and part of the trend is that in 2019, there were 62,534 interlibrary loan requests made, which is the highest, I think. It's the highest I have for the history of Clover, because admittedly we only have the 4 full years of Clover statistics, and I don't have any of the complete statistics for VALs, but the assumption is that those 62,000 plus requests is the highest we have ever had for interlibrary loan requests in the state of Vermont. Of the 56,381 requests that were made, 50,081 of those were filled, which is also a pretty high ratio. In 2019, of the 62,534 requests, 54,635 of those were actually filled. And the unfilled are ones where either it couldn't be found, it would cost to borrow and no one wanted to pay the fee, or it was canceled for some reason, or it was a request made in error. There's always a handful of them in there that are test requests when I'm checking on the system to make sure things are working correctly. So overall, it was a really good interlibrary loan year for Vermont, especially coming through all of the quarantining and the closings and the closing down the courier system for, 6 weeks while we all figured out how to navigate life again. So if you want the full breakdown, there were 56,381 requests. 51,472 of those were books, and no one needs to write this down because I'm putting it all in an email and everyone gets that. 3,456 were videos, 1,277 were audiobooks, 97 music CDs, 62 articles or book chapters, and 17 music scores. So it's a pretty good bunch. I could start with some of the trends that I noticed. And one is that video borrowing is just going way down. We borrowed slightly more videos than were requested in 2020 when 3,000 were requested. But in 2019, there was 5,165 videos requested to be borrowed. So it's gone down by almost 2,000 in 2 years. So I didn't know if a lot of libraries had noticed that video borrowing has gone down or their patrons aren't looking for videos. It's just an interesting trend that I noticed. For audiobooks, also down, but I think that Libby and streaming services have definitely changed that landscape. CDs are still about average for music CDs, and articles was down a little. Music scores, weirdly, is almost exactly where it was for the last 2 years. So it was 18 in both 2020 and 2019 and 17 this year. So let's see. Kelly said, so much streaming now, not as many DVDs. And Marie said that DVD borrowing during the shutdown was almost non-existent. And it's a collection that it seems like it's suffered from not being able to browse. And I don't know if that while everyone was at home, they just signed up for all of the streaming services at home too. I know I did. Does anyone else want to unmute and chime in?
In Bennington, we actually added streaming services to our collection. And so some of our users, some of our patrons actually moved over to the streaming services that we provide as opposed to using our physical DVD collection. And our DVD collection isn't circulating as much as it has. And when it does, it's the really new series that are just coming out everywhere else that they all want.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a reduction in videos, and we basically just think it's because of streaming.
Yeah, I think that streaming could explain the drops in videos and audiobooks, just because more and more libraries are adding video streaming services. And then I think as people were home, maybe they were signing up for them on their own as well.
Yeah, and I think the popularity of podcasts have affected audiobook circulation.
Oh, yep. And Beth Fairley said that she's curious to see if, as we go forward, the DVDs will increase as people want to watch things that don't stream, or they don't want to pay for yet another streaming service. And she said, of course, that means they'll need a DVD player as well.
And perhaps also the right kind of player, because I know that we've requested DVDs and sometimes they come in Blu-ray. Sometimes patrons are able to use that format and sometimes they're not. And sometimes it doesn't come out in a different format. It's hard to find the right option, or to really look at the catalog record, because maybe some of the things are combined where it's not a Blu-ray, or it's, or it is. It's hard to determine that. So that could also be a factor as well. Although some libraries may be able to provide access to the different formats players.
Yeah, it's kind of like the library of things.
I also think about, like, with Neil Young pulling all of his music from Spotify, if that has alerted people to, oh, if I subscribe to Netflix, they could yank whatever I, like to watch there at any moment, which I think we've probably all known that, but maybe it's a little bit more in people's conscious now that they've seen this big news story about it.
Yeah, I think sometimes, like, people just assume Netflix will only drop, like, some older things, and they don't understand the pain of a parent whose child's favorite show is on Netflix, and you go to open it one day and it's gone. Oh, I hate when that happens. But yes, and people pulling from Spotify with the Joe Rogan scandals, and I heard Joni Mitchell also pulled her music from Spotify. But then there's also the conundrum of things like Amazon and Netflix produce their own movies, and I can't remember if, I think Netflix eventually sends it to DVD, but there's some Amazon videos that just, the movies never make it on DVD. You can only watch it on Amazon. And I had a request for one of those one day. I was like, I can't do that because that just doesn't exist anywhere. So Marie says Audible exclusive is a scourge. Yes, it is. Rutland says I'm cutting out from time to time. No, maybe. I'm sorry. We're gonna try. Sometimes the work Wi-Fi is a little bit wonky. But yeah, I'm also curious to see how, now that people are more aware that streaming services will pull things, or specific artists can have things pulled, I'm wondering how that's going to change the DVD requesting, or if it's not going to impact it at all, and if DVDs are still going to continue to trend downward. I think it would be interesting to have like a geographic study done of what areas borrow DVDs most heavily, and you see if like parts of the Northeast Kingdom where there's still no broadband, I assume DVD borrowing is still up.
Yes, from the Northeast Kingdom, it is up, I think, because of that exact reason. You cannot easily, or you can have some internet, but it's not strong enough to stream. So there are people relying on those DVDs. However, we are noticing overall in our statistics that DVDs are going down, although there's still a strong interest. Same with audiobooks.
Yeah.
For internal statistics.
Yes, and Gretchen said that they recently added a few favorite TV shows to the DVD collection that have been taken off of Netflix, and they've done pretty well. So Parks and Rec, The Office, and West Wing. So there's another thing that people could watch is, like, I know I don't remember what website it is, but someone publishes like every month what's leaving Netflix. So you could see if there's something really popular and use that to supplement. And Beth says that in Fairly says that their DVD borrowing is still up, and they also ILL DVDs and are grateful for this service. I think a lot more. I think even as recent as like 5 years ago, no one ever wanted to lend DVDs because it was so expensive to replace. Maybe it was like 10 years ago because I still think the 90s were yesterday. But it just there were so many libraries wouldn't lend them, and now they're cheaper to replace, and people are adding in streaming services. So I think that people are more willing to lend DVDs over interlibrary loan than 10 years ago. If we had
April,
a DVD collection,
it's
I would send them. Hi.
Hi. No, I was talking to the person who orders those here recently, and she said one of the problems is like they're just not as available as they used to be too for purchase. There's that's even becoming more difficult. So yeah, I think over time they're just gonna fade away, but we're seeing the beginnings of it now.
Yeah, and especially like there's huge pushes for broadband everywhere now, and Vermont is seeing giant pushes to expand broadband. And I think it's still a few years out, but I think we're still gonna, like most people said, that overall, I think it's going to trend downward. I don't know if it's ever gonna go completely away because there's always gonna be people who want videos, but it's just gonna be interesting to watch. All right. So were there any other like trends people have noticed? I used to notice like the flow of interlibrary loan more, and it feels like since coming out of, not quite out of COVID, but from 2020 to 2021, like that flow is still just kind of everywhere. It doesn't have the same pattern that it used to be. Like there used to be this slowing down that you could predict, especially around school vacations, but other times of the year. And it's just been like this very steady, not slowing down at all pace for us. And I didn't know if anyone else had noticed that. Like, do you still see the predicted highs and lows, or is it slower, more ILL? Weird peaks.
We found that in Bennington, we had a couple of people move into the area who had been professors elsewhere in the country, and they were so much more savvy, and they are requesting more items on ILL, which is fine by us. But they're highly academic type titles. And so our ILL numbers have physically gone up, but it's mainly due to these two people having moved to the area.
Okay. Well, if they also came from academic places, then I bet they also know that the academic libraries shut down for this like Christmas to New Year's period. So hopefully they don't try to request then. And Marie and Warren says that for them, December is still slower. I think it was slower for us too, but it didn't go as low as it usually does.
And we also found that, just in Warren, we had the whole pandemic refugees. So we had people moving from Boston to their second homes for full time and whatnot. And those folks were, some of them never having stepped foot in our space before, have no idea how small we are. So they would request things. And so all of a sudden it was a lot of ILLing, especially like young adult, things like that, that they were used to a much larger collection. So our numbers, while lower in 2020, I had about 240 patron requests in 2019 and 350 in 2021. Yeah. So we saw a huge increase.
Do you think that the pandemic refugees are going to move back out, or do you think they're there to stay?
We've seen some move back to their regular houses and homes, but some have stayed and some are still here with some regularity, obviously, because they own a place. So we still get to see them and they still request stuff. So we'll see.
Okay. Rutland asked, where's Marie from? Marie is in Warren. All right. And Rutland has their hand up.
Yep, Caroline has something she wants to share.
Okay.
Just a couple of comments. The impact that being part of the consortium has had on interlibrary loan, that has had a very strong impact. Because Rutland is part of a consortium of 25 other libraries.
21, yeah.
21 other libraries. So that has had, statistically, internally for us, that's had a significant impact. And also during COVID, we suspended interlibrary loan for several months, which I don't know if we made the right decision at the time. It was such a panic. We were still doing curbside, but we did suspend interlibrary loan. And now we're back to our previous to COVID numbers, but they're still down due to the consortium, our consortium membership. And let's see, we don't share AV on interlibrary loan, and personally I'd like to do that, but because trends are going down, I think that's having an impact on, again, internally what we decide to do. This is totally off subject, but we're doing a lot of out-of-state requests now. In April, your team has been wonderful on that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, and filling, the fill rate has pretty much been stable for us. And I'd like to know, well, a couple things. I'd like to know what the percentage is, what is a healthy fill rate percentage-wise? If you had some concerns, or not concerns, but a real directive on that, and what we should aim for, if it should be like 95% fill rate or up in the 90s. I just would like to hear your take on that. And where the out-of-state requests are concerned, the paperwork that comes with the materials, often the address, the complete address of the out-of-state library isn't clearly stated on the paper. And some of the books barely have a stamp identifying, that they came from Missouri, that what the library, the public library is. And we've had to sometimes really look them up and get a complete address. It's not always included. Anything you would have any
right
help us with. All right, but thanks again, April.
You're welcome. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take those backwards, I think. So out-of-state libraries that send incomplete or no paperwork has been an ongoing problem. If there's ever any question about where to send it, you can always email Linda and she can just look it right up and she'll just copy and paste the return address for you. We don't put it right into the request just because the systems aren't connected and the copy paste from OCLC is kind of weird. It just never formats correctly. And so what that does is it would just add so much work for Linda, who does the out-of-state requesting, that it would make her, not her fill rate bomb, but it would make the time that it takes her to process the request just way too long. I am hoping to find a way to someday get that flow a little better, but so far there is no good solution. For a healthy fill rate, I'm not really sure. I think overall we're doing really well as a state. I very rarely hear from people having trouble getting an item unless it's new and they send it out like 5 times and eventually they get it. New items are the thing I hear the most trouble getting filled. Sometimes DVDs, but that's partly the cataloging is varied everywhere a little bit, so it doesn't match as many lenders as it could. I don't know as anyone has a 95% fill rate. We certainly do not have a 95% fill rate. I am more than happy to dig into the numbers more and also check to see if there's any kind of like paper on fill rate trends, because that does sound interesting to dig into. So I'm going to dig into that question and hopefully come up with a reasonable answer, or the response that there is no study and we need to do a study on that. I'm gonna look over the chat because there's a few comments. Kelly said, I always feel bad asking for out of state. Is it more work for you? It is not more work for me. It is more work for Linda, but her entire job is out of state interlibrary loan. So you're just making sure she's busy, and she likes doing the out of state. So it is not extra work. We specifically have people on staff for that. And Kelly just raised her hand.
What is Linda's contact info? Do you mind letting us know?
Yes. It is. I'll put it right in the chat. It's Linda Willis Pendo, and she is my interlibrary loan superstar. She processes something like, depending on the day, she'll process anywhere from like 65 to 80 requests for out-of-state stuff every day. She is phenomenal.
And then she also does renewals requests. And how long do you wait usually from libraries? We do some out of state, but we generally try to follow the due date. We haven't had someone needing a renewal, but I didn't know if that was more work and how long a library might take to respond. Is it a week? Is it a couple days?
So
I just, yeah,
some of them out of state never respond, which is a little annoying. And if they don't, we just tell you, well, they haven't asked for it back, so hang on to it for another lending period. In OCLC, generally, they're sometimes bad at responding to renewals, but when they need it back, they will recall it so that we can tell people they did finally ask for it back. And Marie said, my patrons think I'm a superstar when something arrives from out of state. And I try to explain that it's not me. I had a state employee tell me that one day. He goes, this came from Montana. I was like, well, yes. When I say interlibrary loan is through the whole country, that includes Montana. Tracy said that her circ librarian tells her that non-ILL DVD circulation is up in the last year, and she hasn't noticed a dip in ILL DVD requests. And Noreen said for the out-of-state addresses, she checks the packaging and writes down the address on there. And that is it. So Kelly, your hand is still up.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Okay. But yes, I will tell Linda that everyone loves her out-of-state work. She does great. All right. So yeah, I think that maybe the drops in videos are from the libraries that have streaming services. Rutland.
Caroline's got one more.
I'm sorry to be taking up the airspace here, but just one more service that's come up new is scanning material. We've had a few requests from out-of-state libraries that want like our Vermont room collection, like books that we wouldn't circulate. And I didn't know if you saw anything trending or if we're going to start sort of counting or keeping track of what we're doing scanning. if we're asking for materials through scanning or we're delivering materials through scanning.
So for those, when I say there were article or book chapter requests, those are all things that are considered non-returnables. So they're things that are scanned and sent as a file. I haven't seen a huge jump in ours, but I'm not sure about other libraries. And all of the requests that I have are ones that are just through Clover, and it looks like 62 articles or non-returnable requests this past year, which is up from the 59 in 2020, but very far down from the 150 in 2019. So I don't know if that's one that just has to really slowly recover. But I haven't seen a huge change in the number of copy requests that we get. Has anyone else noticed any of that? I think some of it might be that a lot of the article requests we got were from schools, and I don't know if that has been less article requests from schools overall. No one else? All right.
There aren't any school librarians on this call, right? Are they invited to conversations like this? I know it's difficult during the day. You're working with students or at a circulation desk or doing things. Where you
Kelly
can't
is
sit.
from a school library.
Uh,
They are invited. I
Which-
send this out on Vizsla.
Yeah, some are on courier services and others aren't. And I know that some have had trouble working with
always
Clover because they
hard.
do it infrequently. And so.
Yes. Yeah, I try to send out all of my interlibrary loan, everything to Vizsla as well. Vizsla is only for members of Vizsla. So unless they join Vizsla or subscribe to our listservs, then there's not really any good way to reach school librarians. So I know a lot of them subscribe to the youth listserv, and I think some of them subscribe to either our lib staff listserv, and some of them are probably on the VT Libraries one as well, because I know that one has a big variance for librarians from all libraries subscribing. Yes, if there's ever a very easy way to reach all of the school librarians, I would love that. It's like trying to reach all of the state employees. There are listservs that exist for that, but I am not allowed to have access to them. All right. Did anyone have anything else statistics related or anything that they wanted to know? I have a list going of things to look up, so. All right.
You asked a lot of questions in the email.
Let
So
me
I
find
wonder
that
if people have, answers, the stats that were tracked, the how are you tracking things, was changed over the time of COVID. We discussed that a little bit, the status of interlibrary loan.
Yeah, I think by the start of 2021, I think most libraries had reintroduced interlibrary loan. I had I think 2 libraries that waited until February or March before re-signing on with the courier service and restarting their interlibrary loan, but some of that was staffing changes, and one library was Haskell, which had to navigate everything regulation from Canada and the US, and then that was incredibly complicated, and their library director left at some point too. So I did wonder what people had noticed. Kathleen said she's noticed a drop in juvenile books borrowed, and has anyone else experienced that? Did anyone else notice the YA or the kids' books?
In Bennington, yes, the children's books lending is down in general. The adult books are back to pre-COVID levels. And we've also had lots of comments about how they missed the browsing when they weren't allowed in. And so once we opened up the building and allowed people in, they could browse again, and life was better for them.
I love browsing. Lisa in Norwich said that she thinks they've had an increase in the kids' books, and Betsy in Bradford said they had a huge increase in homeschoolers, so juvenile borrowing is way up for them. And I can imagine, I'm pretty sure there was an increase in homeschooling throughout Vermont. So maybe it depends on the area and how much the homeschooling population jumped. All right.
One thing I'm kind of curious about, thinking about advocacy, and see, because I did see a huge jump in my patrons requesting ILLs and how much time each individual ILL takes to process. And I wonder if anyone kind of tracks that staff time, because I don't usually pay attention to that. I just process it. But is anyone else looking at that?
No. I know I haven't been looking at staff time, but it's partly because we have dedicated ILL staff. Like Linda, her time is all spent on ILL, and Vance, some of his time is spent on ILL. Betsy said that she's feeling it big time, as she's the only ILL person at Bradford.
I think the amount of time that's spent on doing ILLs is very dependent on your procedures. And we have procedures that we insist that people check within the consortium before they go to ILL. So that puts like a whole new search level in for the staff before they can move on to the ILL. So it's hefty for us when we have to put one in. But it's part of doing business.
Yeah, and there might be ways to streamline the procedures, or if you haven't gone with patron initiated borrowing, which we talked about at our last meeting, maybe there's a way to introduce some of the like heaviest requesters into patron initiated borrowing, and that would cut down on some of the staff time.
Unfortunately for us, that won't work, because we're the lot that have patron initiated holds through the consortium, through ILS, and we want to ensure that they go through that first before they hit the Clover.
Yes. Yep. Betsy says that she loves it, but it's tough when she has other stuff to do. And Tracy, your hand is up.
Hi, I was wondering, on the subject of streamlining the process procedures, I'm wondering if any libraries who are in this meeting today have any kind of pamphlet or anything, any information that they typically give patrons to kind of introduce them to how interlibrary loans work. Just thinking it'd be nice not to start something from scratch. You know, we have I don't know, for example, patrons who once they get to the notification that their ILL is waiting for them, tell us they don't want it anymore. You know, there seems like there's some bumps that maybe we could smooth out if we gave them some information, you know, up front. Is there anybody out there who has a document they already have made and found useful?
I think that's a wonderful idea to have some instructions or things to expect, or it might take a couple weeks, or so they have an understanding what they have requested. So maybe that will help with some of the behaviors of not picking up loans. And then you went through all the effort to provide that to them. But yeah, so, and maybe how to do some of the steps. Patron initiated if you do that. And also renewals would be helpful, because I know for us that patrons receive an automated notice with a new due date in it. And so for them to look out for that so they know when their item will be due. Or if it's been rejected, then certainly we'll contact them, but also they might see that notice as well. And so showing some of the steps they might encounter.
And Tracy, your hand is up again.
No, it's just still up.
Okay.
From before. Thank
Lee's
you.
hand is up now. And Jen Spanier says she really likes this idea to educate patrons about ILL. And Noreen says it's a great idea, and Marie says it sounds useful. So everyone is in favor. I think it would, something like that would vary from library to library. If no one has something like that that exists, I recommend Canva as a really great way to create something because it's so easy to use. Adrian says make an infographic. Marie asked Adrian, how do you send out an auto email to alert them to their new due date?
Certainly April can answer, but through the participant record, you can have that set up, sent automatically. So when the supplying library changes the date, it just automatically goes out to the patron. And yeah, so I can give more instructions as well, but April probably can speak more to that.
There's a lot of possible notifications in the participant record. Sandy in West Hartford says that West Hartford's ILLs have increased a lot over the past 2 years. As the boss of myself, I do everything in the library, and I really enjoy doing the ILLs as it makes me feel like I have a good collection of books if libraries want to borrow them. And I have had a nice experience with out-of-state audiobook requests, and I have a few patrons that do not like streaming services and like to play them on a portable device. She said, I myself like to listen to an old school Walkman. And she said, thanks for everything you do to help make the ILL process work so well. I like Marie's comments, just, ooh. That's good. Sorry, I have to narrate them. So yes, maybe I could probably I should schedule just a refresher webinar or just record one on the email notifications that are available in Clover. I also need to refresh my collection of Clover tutorials because I have not added to them in a while. Write those down.
Yeah, for speaking of automated notices, we have that set up for when an item is ready or nearly done. And that will be sent once we hit received as a status in Clover in the record. And so some of the items that we get, we can wait until that, the end point to then say, okay, it's been officially received, and then the automated message goes to the patrons. However, some items, because of the way that Clover is configured at some libraries, they have their dates of supply maybe is shorter, so we see it as not received. And so when that happens in Clover, it means that the due date is also obscured. And so for us to see that due date in the record, we have to make it received. And then the message, of course, goes automatically to a patron. And sometimes the patrons will show up expecting that their ILL is completed. So that is one thing that is a downside also of automated messages, that they can be tied to things. Yeah, so every library sets their dates to be received differently. It perhaps is traditional from the mail systems that you want items to be, you expect them to be there sooner within a couple days, but some libraries have them very short, and it's not realistic in terms of traditionally when it goes through maybe the courier. So that is something that we've encountered as a difficulty, but it's also been very helpful to us because patrons, get that notification. We don't have to do the extra work as well.
Yep. And Betsy would also like a notification refresher. Sorry.
So for ILLs that we're sending out, because of the timing of our courier pickups, if we send them out on a Monday, it looks like they get there very quickly. If we send them out on a Wednesday, it could be, it looks like, if we get a request on a Thursday and they don't physically then go out until the Monday, it looks as though they've then gone forever before they actually go anywhere. We change the date, but
the ship date.
Yes, the ship date gets changed, but it'll also looks like we've taken a long time from responding to the fact that we're going to ship it and the fact that it moves out of the door. So we say we're going to support.
I didn't know that. It was like the ship date when it's calculated for the not received. When does that clock start?
It should start on the ship date. So it should be.
So you're
from the
not
ship
one
date
of the libraries. It's like libraries that have like 5 days or very short.
Yeah. So then if they mark it as shipped on Thursday and don't change the ship date to whenever their stop actually is, and their stop, well, let's say they mark it as shipped on a Tuesday, their stop date isn't until Thursday, and the library that's going to doesn't have a stop until Thursday. It means it will take a week to get to that library. And in the meantime, if it's set as, time in transit is 5 days, it's marked as not received, even though it's still getting to the other library. I think some libraries do that just so that they are updated a lot faster on if something might potentially be lost, but it can be confusing for the library that's receiving it.
And it's also confusing to have the understanding of like how long do things take to get here? Does the turnaround time really bad, or is it good? It's harder to see because if I had a lot of not received and it's been a while, that could be an accurate place to look for statistics as well, kind of getting a sense of the system.
Right.
Maybe a training session on how to set the ship dates might be useful.
Or how long it gets into that not received category. I don't think it's necessarily the ship dates.
I think I'm going to aim for something that's both how to set the ship dates, but also to review the participant record and the settings in there, because to be honest, the phrasing of some of the labels is very confusing and doesn't really reflect what you would think it is. So I will work on getting that scheduled too. All right.
Yeah, not all libraries are writing on the ship date on the labels for a courier system.
Yeah, not all of them are. I think it's been enough that it's because those are more there to both if something has randomly disappeared, we see, look, it took 6 weeks for this to show up. What happened? Where in the warehouse did it get lost? It's also been helping the warehouse staff make sure that they are getting everything. And I don't work in the warehouse, but Jeff tells me it's been very helpful. So I can only assume that it has been.
Yeah. Does Noreen, do you mean like tracking, like when you open a bag and kind of, I anecdotally look, oh yeah, this item came faster from this particular library. But does anyone track that in statistics? How long things are taking to get there? You can also use the Clover record to help you see how long.
I don't track how long they take. Generally, if something shows up and I'm like, wow, that why does it seem like it took so long? Then I'll look at the schedule and I'll be like, oh, because this was a holiday and they ship it on this day and we were closed. And so that makes sense. And then sometimes you get some where you're like, I have no idea where this bag has gone or why it has taken this long to get here. So
there were some emails on the listserv about libraries being confused, Brandon, Bradford, or it was Craftsbury and the Craftsbury schools were, having that sub-library matching labels, or it could be that there are libraries like St. Albans, St. Johnsbury, kind of look similar, or you're grabbing the wrong one in the file that are nearby, or Fletcher Free and Fletcher Memorial.
Hartford,
Ludlow.
Heartland. Yeah, there's always some. And I mean, I'm the first to admit we're guilty of grabbing the wrong label sometimes too. So sometimes that's just how it goes. There's been a couple where we end up with a random bag in our bin and it's just that the label had fallen out. So then I just look in Clover to see, oh, well, who is it coming from? Is it coming? Is it going? And then we just send it to the library it was supposed to be going to. And I try to remember to email, but sometimes I forget to email people. Tracy says that they do track the average days to receive each month. So I think it depends on if you're having trouble with getting things on time, then tracking might help. But if things generally seem to be going okay, it may just be a little too much time invested in it. Marie says we've never included paperwork, but that recent discussion on the listserv made her rethink that. Some people ask for at least just who it's from, who it's for, and when it's due to be included. Sometimes it's easy enough if you have the partner labels. It depends on the library, but we try to include some paperwork with ours.
If I could add something to that.
Yeah.
Pretty frequently, we get books that do not belong to us, that we did not ask for. And as an individual library, we can't look to see, Clover due date. So we can see which library owns the book. Then we need to make an email, or phone call to that library and ask, did you want this book back? Who are you sending it to? So if there were paperwork already in there, that would streamline that, little mystery solving process. And especially with, some libraries don't have extended hours, or their ILL librarian person might not be in every day. So, it just would help to have some information in the pouch, because we do frequently get misdirected, fairly frequently get misdirected ILLs in our bin.
Okay. You can always reach out to me and I can look them up in Clover too, because then I can look up. I usually just go to whoever owns it and see if it's been marked as returned to go back to them, or if it's been marked as going to someone else. And then I can just tell you who to send it on to next. And in chat, Adrian said we include the return label and the due date receipt. I think that works for most places. We usually just print out the request and stick that in there. I will double check with Vance to make sure that we're still doing that. Kathleen says paperwork is very helpful. And Marie says they do due date and return label. Kathleen said information on where the item is from and where it's going. Yeah, Adrian said the book straps. If you print using the book straps, that has who it's going to, who it's from, and the due date already included on it. And let me see, someone has their hand up. Rutland. Oh. Rutland, are you still there?
Yep, I got my question answered right here. Thanks.
Okay. Kim.
Yeah, I use the book strap, but I don't put it on as a strap. I put it in like a bookmark, and I attach a return address label to the back of it so that the Clover strap or the Clover sheet of paper has our information and then the return address.
It works, especially I think if something's being sent in the mail, that's really helpful to have. Right. And Kelly said she's never included paperwork, but if it's helpful, she'll be happy to do it in the future. But yeah, I like the book straps. I don't send out most of our ILLs. Vance and Linda send them out. So, Kim.
You know, the book strap is handy because it has the number of the request on it, which really saves time because then you can just look it up by that number versus having to go into, you know, the different columns to see where it may have, you know, come from in terms of searching for it. It's a time saver ultimately.
Right.
And I think some libraries use that number as in their circulation or the ILS.
Yeah,
so that's also another way to use it too.
That's what we do. And it also prints it as both the number and a barcode, so you could just scan it if you need to. Betsy.
Thanks. Sorry, I have a wicked delay on my computer, so I can't tell if my hand is up or down. But I just wanted to throw in there that I've had some really wonderful conversations with libraries around Vermont when they've called me or I've called them trying to solve little ILL mysteries. So it's not, I'm not trying to complain at all, but more to say that some of my really great learning and sometimes like the pick-me-up of a day comes from tracking down an ILL mystery. So I'm all for paperwork, but I've definitely learned a lot talking to people. That's all.
I like that. We do like to talk to each other on occasion. It's nice. All right. Anything from anyone else? Check the chat. Aw, everyone loved that, Betsy. All right. Did anyone else have any other topics that they wanted to bring up? Don't. We made it through an hour. I mean, thank you all for showing up because February is typically the lowest attendance of any of the interlibrary loan meetings because it's the middle of February and we're all cursing a groundhog for predicting 6 more weeks of winter and we're about to get a lot of snow. So, all right. Well, I will call it. If you have any other topics you want on a future agenda or you have any questions, definitely email me. And let's see, our next meeting is in May. Let me look at May. Calendar. Oh, I think I just broke my Outlook calendar. All right. And it would be in the afternoon. I think everyone has continuously agreed that Thursdays work pretty well. So let's aim. How does May 5th? We have a Cinco de Mayo themed party. Yes, Marie, Cinco de Mayo. Let's go with May 5th from 1 to 3, and we can adjust that if we need to, because we have 3 months between then and now. Okay. I will send out an email probably next week summarizing everything we talked about and answering any questions I have left. And I will see you all again in May, hopefully. And I'll talk to you before then.